3?
Or 4. You get that's 4.
Ooh, I don't know how to add. All right. Make sure I'm in order. Everyone ready? At this point, you have absolutely no choice but to vote for the affirmative because clearly they have dropped the fact that this is independently leading to a third party. Remember, the Republicans are about to completely bolt. That's going to fragment the party, which guarantees a loss to the election, which is another reason why it's bad for the GOP. I'm going to begin with resolutional analysis. I'm going to start with his very first analysis that talks about why it's ultimately bad. First of all, you have to extend that there is no independent harm. You can clearly see this because there's clear arguments on case like that. They are arguing against us. Where is the actual unique harm and where the individual abuse? There is absolutely none. The second is on the number 2, where it shows showing clear how the vote bad for the GOP. First of all, he's conflating a resolutional analysis argument with a key site argument. The second answer is that it's very clear how many ways we are showing that it's independently bad, not the least of which is the fact that it's about to splinter into a third party. Now, the next argument is on win-win. The first answer is that he shows a false set of wins, because remember, he's ignoring the evidence that tells you down ballot it's going to completely flip from Republican to Democratic, both the Senate in its entirety. That is independently bad for the GOP. He has absolutely no coattails. I want to continue to case side. Remember, he ignores all the great analysis, especially from George Will, that uniquely says that he is bad for the conservative movement in very specific ways. That evidence is Cole conceded. The LA Times evidence is also extended. Cole conceded. The only thing he has are independent claims, which he's not actually answering on the polling evidence. We are all talking about polls, and you want to actually analyze some things. We'll look towards the Quinnipiac poll, which we're going to extend. It polls 28% of Republicans uniquely will leave the GOP in order to vote against him. That's his own party destroying it. Secondly, I want to go to the off case, his off case. The very first point on his off case. The first answer is that he's ignoring the fact that you kill all down ballot. The second answer, in terms of Sanders, and even the Sanders supporters believe that he's a flip-flop. Extend Trey's great analysis that proves that he's not ultimately a Republican. The third is that it's an extremely small sample size. When you look about the massive effects that it will actually have in the Congress, all independent voting issues here. The next. 60,000 people are a big deal. That's not true, because it's an extremely small sample. The next argument is off the analysis on the deception argument that we're giving, that clearly is his antithesis of what the GOP actually believes. That means, at least at a philosophical level, he's clearly wrong. Now, second is you're going to extend the term which they dropped that talks about that it's a hostile takeover by a non-conservative. That's clearly dropped, as Nicole conceded. The third is that John clearly states that people do not like him, but like them as a whole, even within their own party. That all ultimately is a key answer here. He talks about a teachable moment. First, cross-apply the answers above. How are we teaching when we're destroying the party? The second is you're going to cross-apply a third party that are uniquely going to be developed that destroys the party. The third is you're also going to show the U.S. military revolting. Explain to me how that's a teachable moment. I don't think so. Now, he talks about plenty of polls show plus or minus. Either polls are a wash, and you're going to accept that generals are going to walk with the U.S. military, or you're going to proceed to how the 28% of Republicans are going to flip immediately. That all independently proves. Now, I realize I was moving a little quickly through the case, and some of us may not have quite gotten it. So I want to go one more brief moment back, a smidge, specifically to the res analysis component. The bottom line here is that there's no reason to prefer, because it's clearly fair. He's trying to add additional words to the resolution, and that's clearly not allowable. And more importantly, we are clearly meeting even his ridiculous standard of it. Now, the last is the argument about, it'll hurt the GOP if it leads to more likes and that they can claim a win-win. I think this has been pretty clearly answered. At the point where he is destroying the military and all of the foreign policy values of the country, it's clear he's a problem for the GOP.
So it's 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody ready? Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and just slow down this debate a little bit. It's coming down to the end, and give some clear issues that we need to focus on. So some clear voting issues we could look at. First is going to be the idea of the app setup. And what we can see is what they're wanting to argue is that abuse doesn't ultimately exist. But we can see that basically when they want to get up here and say that all we have to do is show one thing that Trump's going to do wrong, and suddenly it's just everything's going to fall apart. That's a problem. Because especially when the negative comes up here and shows you in multiple ways that the GOP is not only benefiting by having him in the White House, but also by being able to separate themselves from him while he's in that kind of position of power, shows that clearly it's a power play that benefits the GOP, showing that he's showing them a lesson on how to actually run politics and how to deal with people as well, to pull people over to the Republican side. That is a clear benefit. So the question is how do we weigh what they consider to be a problem versus clear benefits to the GOP? It can't be done on their end. So this leads to a second voting issue. The thing is that everything that they have here that they set up, they purely base on hyperbole and exaggeration. They go to things saying that the Republican Party is going to fall apart, that he's going to destroy the world, without providing you any direct evidence that shows where somehow we're going to go into World War III here. So here's the thing. When we clearly look at this, when we clearly show that there are benefits to the negative analysis, when we clearly show that these benefits already exist, then that is something that you can vote on as well. The third voting issue that we're going to look at is the idea of the second contention that we bring up, the idea of the message to the GOP. Now, the only thing that they want to talk about under this condition is that whether or not we want to look at this, basically, he's already given two very important messages. Number one, we can see that clearly, whether or not he becomes the nominee, we see that it's all about screen time. So how he's run his campaign is a clear message to the GOP that they need to change in their approach to dealing with people, right? That is something that the GOP benefits from. That is something that not only do they benefit from, but also they can see how it actually goes to help them because of how he's not only done well in his campaign, but done so without having to be backed by a lot of money. He's done so funding himself. So when we see that clearly there are lessons to be learned here, clearly that there are benefits here, we cannot only look at this as a means of saying that, hey, this one thing is going to cause the entire GOP to fall apart, because the GOP does ultimately benefit from Trump's presence alone. With that, I'd like to leave you with a few ideas. First, what we can look at of these ideas is the evidence on case. And the evidence on case, the only thing that they lean back to say that we're going to have another Democrat in the House, this is one of the main things that they argue with the hyperbole and exaggeration under the second voting issue, is that, number one, the evidence that they're talking about is all the way back in the 1990s. They never show you where that evidence exists today. So when we look today, there's nothing that they bring up that is anywhere near relevant here. When we look to not only the polls, we can see that clearly he's the best to try to win the general election for the GOP. He's the best option that they have to gun against someone like Hillary. But also in looking at Sanders as well as the voting, the other voters that are here, where are these voters going? They're going to another candidate that's basically against Hillary. Therefore, Trump is the best option, and he's the one who's ultimately going to be taking in these votes. What we can see is that more votes for the GOP equals benefits for the GOP. What we can also see is that clearly when it comes to the GOP learning how to run things from looking at Trump's campaign, that ultimately benefits the GOP in the future. Therefore, we can see that the benefits clearly outweigh the harms, and that there is no individual harm that they have actually shown you that's going to legitimately destroy the GOP in and of itself. So with that, I would like to stand down for the last time for the negative ask rodeo.
All right, everybody. All right. Let's go ahead and begin with the resolution analysis and kind of deal with that crisis. And I'm going to take things slower as well and try to bring this round to a wonderful, nice ribbon tied with a pretty little bow. Again, Colby, my beautiful partner. So let's deal with resolution analysis. And they want to sit there and try to pull across this abuse. But in the first speech, they never really give you any grounds for abuse whatsoever. They never actually develop this at all. And I see Timmy over there nodding his head. And he's actually right. Basically, I've got other people nodding their head. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but let me just go into a little bit more and kind of explain what the resolution said. Trump will be a problem. And so the word A simply is a singular notion at that point in time. And we're not adding any words to the resolution. Our opponents could have struck the resolution if they didn't like it, but they chose not to. And so ultimately, that's their issue. But furthermore, one of the things I pointed out in my speech, we're still showing more harm than good once it's all said and done. And what I'm going to do at the end of the speech is kind of go through the harms and the goods once it's all said and kind of give you reasons for voting. Let's go through some of those right now. I'm going to go to the benefits first, because after all, if we have to show more harms, they got to show some benefits. And they don't really give you many benefits. They don't really identify any benefits for you, but I'm going to try to help them out, okay? The first maybe benefit that they claim is that the Republicans are going to win the White House and not look like a racist. Well, the first thing is you've got one poll that shows a 45-43 win by Trump right now. That's not a lot because that's within the margin of error and all that other kind of stuff, but that's a great claim. But the thing is he's not going to win because we've got our other polls showing that there's basically a 10-digit lead just about, and that's ABC and the NBC polls out there. But even if he did, and this is an argument that I brought up, even if he did win the White House, that still ends up becoming a dead core GOP principle win for the affirmative in this round. What that means is principally, core principally, Trump is actually a liberal once it's all said and done. Now, they want to try to dismiss that and say that that was basically in 2000, but they've got no other evidence, and they try to tell you that it's irrelevant, but they missed one of the most important pieces of evidence that I gave you, that PolitiFact is showing you that right now, 77% of what Trump tells people is either mostly false all the way down to pants on fire. I've repeated that statement even in cross-examination, and they ignored it. So the reason why what he said in 2000 is relevant is because they caught him in lies today. And so at that point in time, you clearly have a GOP core principle destruction if he wins. Moving on, the racist argument, I don't know how you don't look like a racist if you're a GOP and Trump becomes your candidate, your partner. So they've got no evidence, no analysis here. Then he's going to show us a lesson. This is a really great thing. I love it when people show me a lesson by handing me my ass. That's a really great thing. That makes me feel really good. In fact, I love it when a teacher gives me a great lesson by giving me an F in a class and failing. That's a really great one out there, because ultimately that's the lesson that Trump is giving them. I'm going to take over your party. Your core values no longer matter. That's a really great lesson. That's a win for the GOP. I don't know how that's a win for the negative in this debate. Then finally, he brings up the Sanders evidence, but the Sanders evidence ignores the fact that a ton of people realize that Trump is not the conservative that everybody, or he tries to make everybody think. Let's talk about harms now. And this is where we outweigh. They've got no benefits to Trump at all. I think enough people have agreed with that in our travels to Great Britain. So here are the harms that we've got. Number one, that we'll lose, okay? And we present evidence from Washington Post, the LA Times, George Will, all of them, that say not only will we lose, but we'll lose the core principles of the Republican Party. The GOP will lose down the ballot, the core values will be gone, and the dropped argument in this round is key. The third party, they're leaving, they're forming a third party tomorrow. The GOP will not exist. So because of that drop, you can vote for the affirmative. My brother? Sir? Good job.
Sir. Long reach.
You can cut film.
Oh. I was trying to get our product placement.
Product placement.
No, like the one that
Oh,
matters. Yeah.
I'd like to thank Coca-Cola for being our sponsor. The Coca-Cola affirmative case was brilliant today. You know, the RPMs on that engine in the first affirmative constructive were amazing. So